I'm sure Sarah. All right, 6:30. Thanks for good morning. How's everybody this morning? Thanks for everybody for coming out. Good attendance today. Good attendance online. We had a couple of good important things to talk about today. So first, we'll kick off with the code of conduct. This week is to drive safely, defensively, and courteously. First kind of big snowstorm came through. Guys all drove pretty safe. We didn't have any fender benders per se. Losing any traction on the roadway. So excellent job kind of keeping your safe following distance out there. Again, it's one of our biggest exposures out there, the amount of miles that we put on to and from job sites, to and from our house. So it's a lot of dangers out there. So keep that in mind this week when you're out there. Continue to create your own safe zone out there on the roadway. And that's by giving yourself time to make decisions. When you tailgate or you're going too fast, you lose that opportunity to prevent something. So think about that this week. So
exposure to getting out of them.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a great point with the bridge down. Makes it very difficult to take left out of here. The safest way is I know it's a pain in the butt. Go out the back, take a left, grab that light on South Brunel.
Actually,
the safest way.
Sometimes I go out towards the down bridge and get onto is that from Marshall? And then go back to
that way.
Yeah, because sometimes it's backed up at Shunpike.
So yeah, that's another option. You go.
Nobody's on that road now.
Go back on where the Cocoa place is out back. Follow that. Take that left at that intersection of South Brownell and Marshall.
And you got a light.
And then you got another light. So then you got two.
The left turn right here without any traffic.
Right.
It saves a lot of time.
It does. Our convenience of just getting on Wilson Road going out the back is going to be hindered for some time. So I'm sure we've all adjusted, but again, let's try to make sure you set yourself up for success. And the way you do that by pre-planning. So it's good topic. So unfortunately, we had our first recordable in quite some time last week. It was actually a week ago from today. So that's why our count's at 6. It was kind of the perfect storm. Unforeseen hazards that weren't controlled. But then to put the nail in the coffin, it wasn't reported in a timely fashion. So within that 5 days, if that really got reported, the condition really worsened. And we couldn't put our first aid measures in place to prevent it from being recordable because now it's medical treatment beyond first aid. So again, it's another good example why it's very important to report things day that it occurred so we can help minimize the exposure that we have. So kind of also what happened last week is what we're going to talk about today, about just our whole awareness, uneven terrain types of situations. So OSHA categorized a hole as a gap or void 2 inches or more in a floor, roof, or other working or walking surface. So those areas kind of is a slip trip hazard or a fall hazard. So we need to make sure that we are protecting these holes out there on our job sites. We're doing more like flat concrete work this time of year as we're finishing up jobs. So it's very important. Anytime we got like a potential for a tripping hazard, we need to clearly identify it. So hole protection is really our safe work practice that we're going to put in place. Each employee on a walking or working surface shall be protected from tripping in or stepping through any holes by covers. So cover, it could be really anything. You want to make sure it's some type of sturdy material that can withstand the load of which we're going to put on, or you're clearly identifying, say, do not step on, letting everybody know that there is a hole here we need to protect, really through that engineering control, like a guardrail system or just a fence around it saying, hey, don't step in this area because you could hurt yourself. So it's the same thing with our excavations or trenches that we leave overnight when we barricade them. Use that same concept for, working on any concrete surfaces or floors or roofs that we might be working on. We need to make sure that we are protecting them and identifying that there's a hole there or a potential danger. So ECI, our safe work practice for hole protection is to cover our holes as soon as they create. Again, that minimizes the risk of anything happening. So put that engineering control right in place. Clearly identify it by spray painting hole or cover, letting everybody know that it's identified that, hey, there is something underneath this piece of plywood or whatever we use. If it's a steel plate, whatever it may be, that there's a open hole there, to make sure that the hazard is clearly identified, and then use materials that can support twice the weight of the load imposed at the one time, or if it's meant to just identify, have some type of barrier fence around it. Secure for displacement. Again, you want to make sure it's fastened. If it is going to be a walking surface, people are going to walk on it, you want to make sure that it is fastened down so it doesn't slide and create a hazard. And then you want to communicate this SWP in the daily safety briefing if you have these hazards on your project. Make sure everybody's aware. As we have concrete crews come onto the job, we got our stick building guys now, Dave Johnson, those guys kind of coming onto our job sites. Let's make sure we communicate these hazards as they come on the project. So, this was something that we don't really do a whole lot of, but we're getting more and more involved in this type of, slab, stick frame building type of hazards, and hole protection is something that we talk about when it comes to excavations and trenches, but it also is on our slab work as well. So, is there any questions? So,
it complied on manholes too.
Yep.
New manholes, new handholes, that type of thing.
Yep. That's a good point, Joe. Yep. Road signs, you double stack a road sign. We always have extra road signs that are really old. We keep out back. Those are great things just to fasten down in the concrete or catch basin holes. Identify it. Hey, it's a hole. Make sure you prevent anyone from falling down into those structures. So it's a safe work practice. It's something that it's a low hanging stuff that sometimes we forget and misremember. So let's bring it to the forefront. You see a hole, hey, if we're installing fence line on a substation, usually we have a whole box labeled ECI substation covers. Grab that whole thing, and that whole thing's meant for just protecting all those holes before the concrete gets put in and the risers get built. We have all that stuff set up to protect us. We've had problems a couple years back where a subcontractor fell in a good sized hole. So it's out there, and especially now with this time of year with frost blankets and everything that we're doing, we're hiding uneven terrain and holes out there. So we need to make sure we're clearly identifying these things out there and putting a proper engineering control in place, such as a cover. So, without that said, I'll pass it over to Ken for the corporate announcements.
Okay, let's see. Remember to winterize equipment. It's pretty obvious now, isn't it? Flu Clinic is December 6th. That's here in the wellness room after safety meeting. A couple weeks here. Health insurance, bunch of things going on here. First of all, this morning, 7 a.m., there'll be a meeting in here. And we'll also have, for all the complete information, hopefully everyone gets a good handle on it. For anyone who is, certainly if you're in the program now, or if you're interested. If not, it's not mandatory. But if you're interested, if you're in it, please attend. And then People's United Bank will be here. They're setting up accounts for the HSAs. I think they'll be in the adjacent room here, setting up accounts so you can be ready to go. Because once this program kicks off at the beginning of the year, is the only time we can start putting in money through ECI, putting in ECI money, and also with the option of putting in your own money into this HSA account. It happens by the calendar year, and you can't start until January 1st. So you have to have it set up soon, so it's all in our accounting system and logged in, so it's an automatic, payroll installation into that account. And then if you have other questions, you can still check with Sarah, the accounting department. Also on the dental program, there's been a change, so you need to submit a new form even if you're on it. And then finally, I got all the deer hunters, good luck, and certainly be safe out there. And then just upcoming Thanksgiving's in a week and a half here. So we need to be thinking about time cards or not cards really anymore, but doing all your entries and everything. Prior to that, if you're off some of next week because of deer hunting or whatever, make sure that you got that in your head to do it early on the week of Thanksgiving. Project we're profiling this week is a Conant farm. In Williston, we did, well, it's not really about HDD, it's about a manure transfer line. And the Conant farm is the one in Richmond on the flats, just before the Through Trust Green Bridge there, where 117 and, well, Milton Cat comes together. So, pretty big farm. I don't know how many acres they got. Anybody know?
It was 1,200 last time I heard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a good-sized farm, and they got property on both sides of the river, which is one of their challenges. So, we've contracted with the Conants, and we installed a 10-inch diameter HDPE manure transfer line from the storage tanks behind, or kind of behind their dairy barn, out to their fields on the Jericho side of the Winooski River. Our original phase of work was an exploratory drill for a 500-foot-long river crossing shot, which occurred back in September. And the purpose was to see if there was rock there, because it would have been, economically infeasible to go and do a rock bore. They would have reverted back to the original transportation method, which was by trucks. So, but fortunately, we got through successfully. Didn't hit rock. It was good drilling, and so it made it good to go. And then they decided, when we got started here in the last couple weeks, that they decided to extend our work by adding a 500-foot-long bore on each side of the river. So that made it pretty much a complete run for the entire pipeline. And the purpose of extending was ease and how quickly it went together and everything, but also because they eliminated all the archaeological studies needed. Because anytime you're near a river like that, there's frequently it's a potential archaeological site, and there's been, I think, confirmed sightings. I think they've had studies out there before, so they wanted to avoid any of that extensive work for the studies, so they did it underneath all that. And let's see, the drilling and connection fittings were installed this week. And the new line expected to save transportation costs. What they would have to do is get their big manure hauling trucks, run them around the road, so it's going to take traffic off 2 and 15 or 117 and the bridge, especially. And also, before they had to go when the trucks were available, they got, I think, a lot of rental trucks and things. So they were not quite ready, and then they were committed, and then it wasn't maybe the right time, but now they can just pump it out when it makes sense, and then apply it in the field. So they have the sophisticated applications of, trenching and injecting into the ground rather than just dumping on the ground or spraying it used to be.
How big the pipe?
10-inch. So they're back in September. What a difference. And then this week. So, yeah. You can see in the background, there's a trailer. The Winooski River's down here. That was cornfield's been cut off. And here we are just doing one of the tie-in pits, I guess, or termination end. Looks like. Coming up, so they'll tie right into that. That's stainless?
It is stainless.
Yep. And then there's some of must have been that's next to the railroad?
Yeah, that's where they pump it to.
Right, that's on the Jericho side?
Yep.
And then an end ready for a electrofusion coupling. There's the coupling, all tied on and plugged in, cleaned up, and that's what we got there. So then for the photo archives, we have another drilling operation in Williston back, I'm thinking that's probably on 2010 or 12 or so. We're drilling a rock shot under the interstate at the rest area. So this is the southbound rest area, shooting to the other side for a communication line back then. So we got good luck out there hunting this weekend. Like I said, be safe.
Zach McQueen.